Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of MC Fireside Chats. The intro you just saw is brand new. It's probably the best part of the show, so if you want to turn everything off now, you can. But I put that together over the weekend. Took me a couple hours. I'm kind of happy with it, but we'll see. We needed something to start the show, right? Do a little bit of a buffer and stuff like that. So
it was beautiful.
Welcome to another episode here. We're super excited. We're going to talk about some innovative experiences today. I'm going to be joined by Cara. Hopefully, she's having a little bit of Wi-Fi issues this morning, but we're going to try to get her on. And in the meantime, kind of I'll take the mantle and make it not as good as if she was here, but I'll do my best. So we got a couple guests today. We're going to talk about innovative experiences. We have Quentin Incao. Am I pronouncing that right, Quentin?
Incao. Yeah, Incao, that's good.
Okay. I won't make the mistake again. So Quentin Incao from Camp Collective, who we're going to talk to a little bit on. I'm going to have him give a brief bio here in a second. We've got Tessa McCrackin from Northgate, who's the Chief Marketing Officer.
Correct.
Is that right? There's a lot of you marketing people, so I'm worried I'm going to mix up the title, but you do a great job, so that's a good thing. So, and then we've got Mr. Ryan Krotz, who joined us a couple weeks ago from Petoskey KOA in Michigan, part of Sun Communities, really putting some money into that property up there, and so we wanted to just have him on as kind of an insight into the manager guest experience, those kinds of things. He's got a lot of value to bring to the table. So let's go around. We're going to start with Quentin. He's only got limited time with us this morning. So Quentin, can you just give us a brief introduction to what you hope Camp Collective will be?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Brian. I appreciate it. And nice meeting you, Tessa and Ryan. Camp Collective is a elevated RV and glamping destination with a focus on the RV side of the experience. It is a new brand that our consulting company, Q Hospitality Management, is bringing to the table, and hopefully taking our 30 years or my 30 years of hospitality experience and my team's 100 years or so, and looking at it from a different angle, from a service perspective, from an amenity perspective, from a tech forward perspective. So Camp Collective will be elevated RV and glamping destinations that, if you think about Ace Hotels and WeWork, and you blend those two together, Ace Hotels being hip, trendy, fun, cool vibe, good services, good food and beverage, and WeWork being obviously work-focused and strong Wi-Fi and what have you. If you blend those two together, that's essentially what Camp Collective will be. It will be a place where there is no tech shaming. If you want to run your company by the fire or do a podcast by the fire, we love that and we welcome that. We'll have workspaces for you as well. If you want to relax, you can relax.
How close can you get to the fire if you want to do a podcast? I feel like at some point that would be dangerous. But
well, that's completely up to you. Obviously, depends how big your fire is. But
I'm intentionally trying to throw you off, Quentin, because I know that you have really good things. I'm just trying to make it a little bit difficult on you, so you don't have to give us the pitch that we've all, like, for my business, right? I've worked on this thing that I know is perfect, and so I want to make sure that you're on your toes a little bit, Quentin. So
you threw me because I haven't thought about guys with a computer by the fire and how close they can get. So good one. You know what? We'll have you work in our work pods instead. That way you don't burn up your computer.
I'm gonna need a new job because this podcast is terrible. So
you know what? We would be honored if you would hang out in our parks and whatever, do crazy stuff by the fire or not. Whatever you want to do.
Ryan will come up there. Ryan will come up there and do it. Will you go, Ryan? I mean, you don't really do anything around your park, right?
That's funny you're saying that. I'm watching as the KOA inspection team just rolled in, and yeah, I got nothing going today. It's just Memorial Day coming up. It's fine.
All right. Well, you got time. He doesn't open his first park yet, so just plan it. Yeah.
A little holiday coming up.
But yeah, feel free, guys. Tessa and Ryan are both here. Tessa, just give us a brief intro of who you are, and then I want to explore Quentin a little bit more, but I want you guys to feel free to jump in and ask Quentin questions too.
Got it. Yeah. So I am Tessa McCrackin. I'm the CEO of Northgate Resort. I've had various roles in operations and marketing over the years with the company, and we're about to launch our new brand, Camp Fimfo.
All right. Very
Congratulations.
Cool. And then Ryan, go ahead. I know I kind of told a little bit about you, but just a brief intro of you.
I'm Ryan. I started with Sun when they acquired our property a few years back, and then actually left Sun when came back. They call it a boomerang. And I'm now running a park that I used to run prior to Sun purchasing it. And we are going through a 59 site RV expansion and 20 new VRs, and It's fun to watch them expand the park and make it way bigger and way better in 1 year instead of spreading it off over 10 years or something like that. So
I know you showed us some pictures. I think it was a couple weeks ago, and Quentin, I muted you for a second because I think we got an echo on your line. I'm not sure if you've got two speakers on or something over there, but
I'm sorry, no.
Oh, it's okay. So
I'll go earphoneless if you want, and
it might just be me, so I don't know. But anyway, yeah, we can hear you still. So yeah, I mean, I think it's
all
okay.
right.
So, but yeah, go ahead, Quentin. Tell us obviously there's a lot of people that are getting into this industry, right? We know this. We know that, especially due to COVID, there are tons of people who are developing new parks. They're looking to purchase land. They're looking to elevate the experience. They're looking to change it and modify it and do all kinds of things, right? Money and cash is cheap. Lots of people can get financing very easily. So why is Camp Collective different than those people? Or are they? Or are they the same?
Not knowing specifically who you're talking about, and certainly there's unbelievable.
I want to give you the freedom to compare yourself to whoever you want. That's why I wasn't specific.
Fair enough. Without sounding too cocky or too confident, I'd say we don't compare to anyone.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't compare to anyone from the perspective of a collection, a group of unique, consistent destination experiences with more of a hospitality focus, with some of the aspects of hospitality that you don't often find in RV destinations. Now, Sun, I know, is huge, and they have a million locations. Jellystone has their locations, KOA has their locations, but those are all very different focuses, and what they do really well. I think that we will bring something different, which I'm sure other people are doing as well, but I like to think that we will be the first to do it in multiple locations in order to create this wonderful collection around the country as you travel, or through national parks and through amazing wine country destinations. You can stay at 2 or 3 of our locations on your 2-week trip, if you will, because of that consistent experience, consistent amenity, consistent landscaping, tech forward, and some cool things that maybe aren't being done at other RV destinations.
Can you give us some specifics of that? And just to be clear, I'm being hard on you, but not because we don't believe in you, Quentin, because I do. I think you're going to be very successful in this business. I'm just trying to flesh out what it's actually going to be like, because it's hard. You don't have any locations yet, right?
Correct. We're not live yet. We're in the process of sourcing funding and investors. We're also looking for park partners who either want to lease or allow us to secure a management contract in order to get our concept live quicker. We have management experience from managing hotels, so we're going to transport that onto managing RV destinations by putting our brand on there and rebranding it to the extent that works, or of course a lease. So no locations yet, but the goal is hopefully 2 this year and 3 to 5 the following year, and each subsequent year. I just think, again, it's maybe my cockiness or my confidence from being in the hospitality industry for so long and being in the independent hotel side of the hospitality industry, where you could do what you wanted, to think outside the box and create an experience and create amazing amenities and say what you want and wear what you want. So that's what I haven't seen. Not that it doesn't exist, but that's what I haven't seen in other RV destinations that are more elevated. And so that's really the difference that I hope we are bringing, so that people have this consistent, fun, unique, memorable experience in a really cool destination with great food and beverage. And you asked me a couple of things.
Yeah, a couple of things that you think really kind of that the RV industry maybe isn't doing yet, that you will.
Well, I don't want to say that the industry isn't doing it. I would say that it's not consistently across many locations. Okay. I'm sure there are, one-offs all around the country doing all this, and we are definitely not reinventing the wheel. I'll be the first to say I think we're putting better wheels on the RV, but we're not reinventing it for sure. So I don't consider this a disruptive experience, but I consider it more unique and service focused. So we will provide room service to your RV sites and to your glamping units. So our mix is probably 90% RV, 10% glamping. We will provide room service. You can order from an app or you can order from our website, however we make that work. We'll deliver right to your RV destination, which I know some are doing, but not a lot of them are doing. So we think that's unique. We will have a special morning food and beverage program in our curated camp store. We'll have an evening wine and beer program. We will have work pods specifically dedicated to the digital nomad and those on the road doing Zoom calls and running companies, doing podcasts or schooling. So you can use these specific pods around the property to hold your conference call or what have you. And they're just for work. So you can get out of your unit or out of your RV type of thing and work in those areas. So a couple little things like that without giving away all the secret sauce are kind of our focus on allowing you to choose how to disconnect. You don't have to disconnect to disconnect. You can stay plugged in and still be disconnected.
So what do you think, Tessa, with all this? Obviously, you work for Northgate. They've done a lot of innovation already. We're going to talk about Fimfo in a couple of minutes, but what's your take on what Quentin's saying? Is there room for this kind of innovation in the industry?
Yeah, certainly. And I think that there's room just in general for more highly amenitized campgrounds. You know, it's really hard to get a reservation this summer as it is. So I definitely think there's room for this concept.
So what are some things let's start with Northgate before we talk about Camp Fimfo, right? What are some things that Northgate is doing to kind of elevate the experience that you've maybe already deployed at parks that we just maybe don't know about at a scale?
Yeah, so this year our Greta Bostonbrook on our team coined it the year of excellence. So we've really been taking what we're already doing and focusing on improving it. So for example, with our events, like how can we really drive that theming home and give campers the best experience possible? Or, you know, you're already out in nature. How can we make sure that our park looks the best it possibly can look? And we're really focusing on taking what we have and just making sure it's perfect this year.
Okay. Have you learned, has anything with those plans been or come out of COVID and that experience and what you've learned from that, or what guests have maybe changed in what they're looking for in the outside and the outdoors?
Yeah, certainly a bit. I think we've taken more digital. You know, we used to do a ton of printed materials at check-in. Guests don't need that now. People are really used to using QR codes and we're just not printing as much. So certainly some things have came out of COVID, but I think more has just come out of the rapid growth we've seen over the past few years. You know, we've been adding parks. And we just decided we really need to take a step back, even though we did pretty much double our portfolio this year. Sit back and take a look at what we have and really make sure that it's perfect and how we want it.
So what are some things that you guys see? Like obviously it's the year of excellence. You touched on it a little bit with Northgate. What are some areas that, I mean, maybe you would push into if you had your choice at parks? Push
into
like push the industry to innovate, right? What are some things that you see are low-hanging fruits that could be easily corrected by maybe even independent park owners?
Yeah, I think that the park model cabins, for example, everyone kind of has the same type of cabin right now. And this year we brought on a design team into our office, and we're really trying to make our cabins stand out going forward to make sure that, you know, you can have a park model, but it's something special that you can't see the exact same thing at every campground.
So I don't know if you were
manufacturer for that. Is that Skyline?
What?
Who's manufacturing? Are you guys going through Skyline like Sun does?
Oh, we have a few manufacturers actually that are doing them. We're doing some stick belt. We're using Cabco. We have a few.
Sweet. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like
that. Ryan was on. Like, do you want to pull up the pictures again, Ryan, just to show Tessa? I don't know if she caught the show, but a couple weeks ago, Ryan and I were talking about on the show. He's a KOA, obviously, and they have those kind of standard KOA cabins that you kind of expect everywhere, which are nice, but how he's kind of leveling up that experience with some of the things that Sun's putting into that park. So we can show those pictures in a second if he's got them up again. But I agree with you.
I 100% agree. I think, man, that's super cool to think, because you're right. Like even the buildings we're putting in now, they're super cookie cutter and like, yep, this is what it is. And you get 3 models, and, you know, we're working with Skyline directly with Sun. I think Sun they have a contract with them, but, you know, you get 3 models. You want the loft unit or the not loft unit. And you're like, oh man, yeah, I just wish there was something cooler. And you like try and design the outside where you get 6 colors. Like, okay. But yeah, I can share what we just put in. So actually, they just finished. I just got more photos, better photos of them.
Yeah, I don't think you showed us the insides at all last
time.
time.
I now have interior photos too, and so like a lot of the artwork isn't there yet. But like this is not, you don't see these at KOA, but a lot of the Sun properties, this is what they're going to, is these tiny houses. I would not consider them a cabin at all. I would consider it a tiny house, with super high-end furniture that's made from recycled water bottles or something. It's super, it's very cool, high-end fire pits and giant deluxe patio spaces. These cabins sleep 8. So, you're looking to be able to have enough seating for 8 people. But like interiors on them, I mean, you lose kind of that cabin, that camping feel. Like people want to go, especially with the KOA and Yogi Bears and stuff like that. Like they want that experience where like, we're going camping, and you walk into this and it's like, that's nicer than my house. That's soft closed drawers and, butcher blocks and, fancy toasters. And you're like, okay, well, and people love it. We've only had them open for a couple weeks now, but the response has been really good. This is what people want. And we're definitely getting, I don't know if you're seeing it as much as we are, but like we're getting a different camper. Like the camper that we used to get before COVID, that's not the camper anymore. We're the city people coming out. They want the camping experience, and this is just enough rustic for them. So,
city slicker. Ryan, can I ask you? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Quentin. Yeah, go ahead.
Ryan, can I ask you what those go for?
Yeah, you want the per night cost, or
what your average rate is, or what your
they're right around 2. I think we're a little low still, because we're in Petoskey, which is a pretty fancy area of Michigan. We're right around $280 a night for all the people in it, but during our holidays we're about $310, $320, and they're booked solid. Like they were booked solid before I could put them in. So
even in the off season, January, February in Michigan, which is, we're
closed. So this is only a 6-month park.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're beautiful looking. You're right. I mean, I hate to say it, but it reminds me of being back in the hotel business and some really nice, small hotel suites or junior suites or something. They're really decked out. It almost blurs the line between glamping and hotel room.
Yeah, my sales pitch for it is, because everyone's like, wow, $280, and it's like, yeah, it's like a fancy hotel room, but you're not sharing the hallway, which that communicates well with like, everyone has that story of you're sleeping in your fancy hotel room and some kid is running up and down with the ice bucket, slamming it against the wall. Like, yeah, it's your own space. Like you got your own everything on these. So,
and 8 people too. You'll never get a room for 8 people for $280.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you bring up a good point though, Ryan, about how you have to not spin it, but explain it sometimes to an audience that's used to paying a little bit less than $280 a night at campgrounds. Tessa, for example, obviously you have a lot of knowledge about marketing. How are you pitching some of these new elevated experiences to people?
Well, with that cabin cost, Ryan, that includes all access to almost everything at your park, right? I mean, if you were going to take your family to the water park for a day, you would be paying that rate and not getting to stay. So I think it's a really easy sell and a good value if you look at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, because and Sun is putting in pickleball courts and tennis courts and
it's a resort.
Yeah, it went from a super high-end KOA to like it's fun. The inspection team is here. I kind of jokingly said like the KOA inspection team's here, and it's like, how are you going to inspect this? Like it's, we put in $7 million. Like, we had a perfect score last year, so is there a better than perfect score? Like this will be good. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, it's a totally different thing. So is Northgate doing something similar at their resorts with kind of tiny homes and stuff like that? Or
we're trying to be really intentional with the finishes that we pick for the cabins. Before we had this design team, marketing was the closest to design. So they would come to me and be like, which light do you want? Which door do you want? And I don't know what I'm doing. So now we have a team of people that do know what they're doing, intentionally picking. And especially at this new brand, we're going to be focusing on adding things like artwork that you might not necessarily see at all of our cabins. And I think that will be a really nice touch.
Awesome. So tell us, what's Camp Fimfo?
Yeah, so Camp Bimbo is a new kind of camping experience. I like to say it's rooted in nostalgia, but it's all about fun. So we're really going to try to combine local charm, whimsy, and kitschy design touches to give campers a vacation that looks and feels different.
That's it? We're only going to get the elevator pitch?
Oh, I can keep going.
We have an hour to fill, Tessa. Like, we have time here. So,
do you want me to start talking about our first location and kind of how we got to this point?
Sure. I mean, I'd love to know how you came up with the name, right? Because when I first heard the name, I was like, what are they thinking?
Well, we want Fimfo for fun. Maybe it stands for something. Maybe it doesn't. A big element of this brand is kind of quirky, hidden messages and surprise and delight. So we kind of wanted an off-the-wall name that got people thinking and wondering. So I stand the name. I think that it will be great. But yeah, so our first location is going to be in New Braunfels, and that's going to open on July 1st. And we actually have a Jellystone 1 mile down the road. So our Jellystone Hill Country is literally 1 mile down the road, which is kind of why there was this great piece of property. We knew we wanted to put a campground there, but it wasn't going to be a Jellystone. So that's kind of what caused us to push ourselves to come up with this new brand.
Yeah, New Braunfels is a huge area. There's a lot of resorts down there, right? It's near that Schlitterbahn, is that right? Right there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in the area. I mean, Texas Hill Country is great. It's one of my favorite places, and this property's right on the river. So great for tubing and, fishing and all of that.
So how does Camp Fimfo, I don't want to say best the Jellystone experience, but how does Camp Fimfo, obviously other than the mascot, right? That's different. But how is Camp Fimfo going to change that experience? Why is somebody, let's say somebody who's looking for a resort experience, all the amenities that Jellystone normally provides, if they're coming to New Braunfels, why are they coming to Fimfo instead of the Jellystone?
Yeah, and Jellystone really is great. We love Jellystones. We have 14. Obviously that works for us, but I think it's just a little bit different. So this Jellystone really caters to kids up to 12. We're going to have more adventure experiences at this location where it might appeal to families that also have older kids or even people that don't have kids. If you want to, we've been trying to do more event spaces at our properties too. And I think that sometimes we get feedback that people are a little hesitant to have their, corporate retreat at a Jellystone park. Not sure if the name kind of scares people away. So we're hoping to have something that is still family friendly, still really fun, but might, broaden the audience a bit.
So is it going to be super high end finishes? And is that kind of, because that's kind of the difference with like KOA and like everyone thinks of KOA as like the kids family park. And so your next park is going to be more like the adults, like wine and beer on the back patio and stuff like that. Is that what you're kind of going for?
Yeah, certainly it's going to be higher end, but I wouldn't say we're going to be as high end as collective retreats or like an auto camp. We're still very fun. You feel cozy there. You don't feel like you can't touch anything.
Approachable.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Approachable fun.
Your website reminds me, outside of weights, it's kind of cool. It reminds me of camping when I was a kid. It's just the first image reminds me of going with my dad camping or something back then kind of thing. So that's great.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think that's probably one of the highest compliments a marketing person can get. So
that's awesome.
Wow. Huh. That's cool. I love it.
So what is if everything goes well with Camp Fimfo, with this new location, obviously you're going to be packed. There's no question about that, especially with the interest that we've had in the outdoors. But if everything goes well, where is Camp Fimfo in 5-10 years?
We definitely have plans to add more locations in 2022. And so I would hope to keep adding a few more locations every year. I don't know exactly where those would be right now. We have a couple, I'm not ready to say where yet, but we have a couple that are slotted to be Camp Fimfos.
Okay.
And Tessa, is it RV focused with some glamping or is it glamping focused with RV?
Oh yeah, I should say. So we are going to have glamping options than your traditional kind of cabins that you'd see. And then RV sites too. So I would say equally focused, but more focused on glamping than I would say our Jellystones are.
Okay.
So it's an interesting question, though. You bring up glamping. We talked about the differences in the cabins with Ryan's property and how you're kind of limited to the paint touches and the finishes and all those kinds of things. As we move forward and more people are interested in glamping, more people see the variety of accommodations that can come as a result of this. Airbnb, for example, right? I'm in a 120-year-old cabin. Theoretically, you could put an old cabin like this and it could be glamping. Anything could be glamping. But with yurts and teepees and all those kinds of things, where is glamping going in your mind, from a Northgate, from a KOA, from a Camp Collective perspective?
Ladies first.
Whoever wants.
I would say that glamping, to me, this is my unique perspective, is getting less about the gimmick, I could be wrong, and more about just a quality experience. Like you said, we have more people coming from hotels, and they expect that hotel level quality of service. And so, I don't think we're planning to do like the craziest thing that are attention grabbing, and really just focus on giving a great experience to the guest that's expecting something closer to a hotel than a rustic cabin.
I think I would agree with that, because I think now obviously there are outliers, there are exceptions, right? But having been in this industry for, I don't know, 10, 12 years, whatever, however long I've been here, I'm super old now. But I've seen people call things glamping that are tents without bathrooms, that are, and it's not that it isn't glamping, but I've seen people call it those things for a long time. And I think you're right. There has been a shift in the mindset of, now that there's these hotel guests, there's more people interested in the outdoors. They're becoming more higher end, more luxurious experiences. Look what KOA is doing with the Camp Terramore, right? In Maine, I think. And so I think there's a lot of room for innovation and to really define what glamping is, more so than it already has been.
I agree. I kind of feel like it's got a little bit watered down, or a little bit kind of spread out. It's almost like the boutique hotel rates. You had Kimpton hotels, and then Intercontinental bought Kimpton, and now all of a sudden they have boutique.
Oh, Kimpton was fantastic. Like, I would go out of my way like 100 miles to stay at a Kimpton. Because
absolutely.
Have you guys ever heard of this brand? Like, I don't want to divert too much, but yeah, Kimpton had this amazing loyalty program where I could stay like 7 times in different cities and get 2 free nights and all kinds of like luxury wine tasting experiences, and every hotel was different. And so yeah, I understand what you're saying.
And so Kimpton was, yes, ISG killed it for sure. And that was their way to get into the independent hotel industry. They bought a group and boom, now we're in independent hotels. That watered it down. And I think there's somewhat, and I'm probably a little bit guilty of that as well, I think that there's somewhat a watering down of what glamorous camping or glamping was originally meant to remind people of, or be, because it can be anything from tents without bathrooms, like you said, to fancy cabins that, like hotel suites, to, we're looking at maybe doing shipping containers, or we're an advisor to a cool company called Tree Walkers, which is doing these tented tree houses that will become, a franchise and will, be around the US, which are really cool looking. It's just another version of, of what you can stay in and spend the night in. At the end of the day, I think I agree with Tessa. It doesn't matter if it's a tent or a yurt or a shipping container or whatever it is. It's really about the experience. What kind of experience are you giving? What are you creating? What are they going to take away? Where are they going to go, oh my God, I have to go back, not because it was a tent or a yurt or a teepee, because it was a tent, a yurt, a teepee, and the amenities were amazing, and the service was incredible, and the location was gorgeous, and. And I think it's really about the experience of whatever you use at the various different levels, from the Motel 6 level glamping to the Four Seasons level glamping, and everything in between. So for me, it's experience. The unit you stay in helps that experience. It's really not, I think, at the end of the day, just about the unit.
Yeah, you're breaking up just a little bit, Quentin. So we caught most of what you said, but maybe just come a little bit closer to the mic. I don't know. I just want to make sure we're hearing you. I know you have to go, Quentin. I know you're only here with us for the first half hour. So let me ask you this question before you leave. Is there a point in time, coming from your hotel background experience, is there a point in time where the Marriotts and the IHGs and the Hiltons and the Hyatts get involved in glamping and figure out a way to scale it to the point where it becomes cost effective for a franchise model like
that? Unfortunately, I think yes. The answer is yes. I think that they will.
So
I think they will, and I think it'll be very unfortunate the day they do. I just hate to say it. I think they'll get into it because it's a popular segment of hospitality, and I think they'll get into it instead of starting it. in order to get in faster, and they'll pick up a collective retreats. They'll pick up an under campus. They'll pick up whatever the KOA Jellystone brand. Any one of those that has mass quantity, just to be in it as opposed to starting. So I do see that, like some hotel industries have gotten into the Airbnb model and into the short-term rental business. I see them getting into the glamping as well, perhaps in the next couple of years, maybe the more progressive ones or the independent hotel-focused ones.
Okay.
I hope it's not the case. But
well, I think it's going to happen too. I think it's almost inevitable, right? And please, if you have to go, feel free to leave us anytime. I really appreciate you being here. I know it's 9:30.
1 minute. No.
Okay. So, but yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your insight. I hope you're really successful with Camp Collective. I think there's plenty of room for innovation here. And so I think a lot of people are going to see some success and drive some changes here. So really appreciate you joining us.
Well, and I appreciate that as well, Brian. Thank you. Tessa, it was wonderful to meet you. Ryan, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you asking me to join, and onward and upward with Camp Collective. Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Ryan, you're unusually quiet. You got to start being more talkative on these shows.
So I have a 9-month-old, and she chooses that Mondays are the days she does not want to sleep. So I'm lacking a little bit of sleep today. So, and I can't insult you on this show, so it limits my talking points.
What do you guys feel about what Quentin said? Is this inevitable that Marriott and the IHGs are going to come in here? Because I think it is. I think at some point they're going to figure out how to scale glamping, whether it's vertically or spread out or somehow. And then I think right now is the golden age for these independent owners, for the smaller groups, for even some of the larger ones like Northgate to really cement themselves in the mind of the consumer before this happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it is kind of inevitable. If you think about it, it's probably a little bit daunting, especially if they want to do the RV sites. That's more complicated than a hotel. That whole aspect there's definitely a learning curve to that. But, they'd be silly kind of not to. It's really booming,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like, I think somebody told me once that IHG, and maybe you guys have never heard this, that somebody told me IHG used to own campgrounds. Like long time ago, there used to be Holiday Inn campgrounds or something like that. And then they got out of it because they realized how hard it was to manage and all those kinds of things that we all know, right? It's a struggle. It's different than hotels. It's not that it can't be done. But yeah, I think right now as an independent park owner or a Northgate or a KOA or whatever, I think you have an opportunity to cement your brand, to cement the experience, to cement that stuff in the mind of the consumer to where if Marriott comes in, then all of a sudden it's not Marriott's industry. It's Marriott plus Northgate plus Sun plus KOA plus whatever. I think Marriott's just one other brand. But I think that's going to require some innovation, not just from the Northgates and the KOAs and the LSIs. I think it's going to require innovation from some of the park owners. And so one of the things that interests me, like we were talking about glamping and how widespread it's been and how it's evolved. Do you think this was intentional from a park owner standpoint to take advantage of that glamping word and to use it as easily as they could? Or do you think that it was just kind of a casualty of here's what I think is going to do well?
Yeah. See, I know that the mom makes the decision where you're going to go. And when you put the word glamping in it, like, yeah, of course we're going to go there. And that's an easy sales pitch. And I know what KOA is doing with the brand specific, like the resort, the Holiday. And I know Sun's kind of trying to do the same thing where they're building the brand so that if, Holiday Inn and all this, they do come out with KOAs, like you're going to want to stay at this brand because of these items. Like KOA does it, like if you're a Holiday, like you're expected to do kids events and activities. Like, okay, if you have kids, like you should go to a KOA because you know that there's going to be events there. If they're a journey park, like, yeah, you're just strolling through on your way to somewhere else. Or if you're a resort, like you expect 5-star amenities. And, Sun's kind of doing the similar thing where they have signature properties. So like Kava, when I was there, that part it sounds like more of like what you guys are doing, Tessa, at this new place where it was very very, very fancy, and you get the Justin Biebers, you get the people that like, oh wow, like this is a very nice place.
Wait, do you actually want the Justin Biebers? Is that a thing that you try to attract?
It's cool publicity if you can actually talk about it. You can't talk about it till after it's done, so it doesn't help you at all. But
okay.
It's kind of cool for the staff to like, yeah, we had, to be a park that would even interest him, or his bodyguards were awesome, and they're the coolest people ever. And like we had dinner, and that's a story that I'll be able to tell 10 years from now. Like, man, yeah, he stayed there. I escorted him in. I opened up our lap pool and let them swim late at night. It's kind of a cool publicity if you can actually post it. Unfortunately, there's a $500,000 fine if you post it while he's there. So you got to be super cautious, and there's a lot of lawyers involved. But like that, if you can do that, like if Justin Bieber, that's what, like if I could have gotten him to stay in a cabin, like we would have named that cabin the Justin Bieber cabin, and you could have sold it for $700 a night. Like it wouldn't have mattered. Like
we actually do marketing for a resort in Kansas that supposedly, I think it ended up not being true, but I thought it was for several years. They have a Matthew McConaughey cabin or whatever.
And I'm sure
there's a debate about whether they actually stayed there or not, but they were marketing it that for a long time, and it got a lot of interest from result of it. But the reason I ask is because of that, right? Like we have a lot of independent park owners, I know especially that I work with, who it's not a celebrity thing. It's I don't really want the hotel guests because they don't treat my cabin right, and they don't clean up after themselves and those kinds of things. And so I was just curious.
Yeah, the problem is their money spent's just as good as everybody else's, and that's
I agree.
You gotta suck it up and like, okay, well, how do we make them? How do we get that guest, and how do we teach them about camping? Because like I would say 90% of the guests didn't even. A lot of them, they come and they don't have sewer hoses. It's the first time they've rented an RV or bought an RV, and they couldn't even get sewer hoses. And they're like, our toilet's full. And you're like, you just got to open the valve. And they're like, no, what valve? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, are you even connected in the sewer? Like, have you? And they don't know. They don't know any of that stuff. This is just like I saw it on TV once, and I'm in. Like, this is fun. It's kind of scary when you're driving down the expressway and there's a 40-foot coach with a Denali behind it, and you're like, they were driving a minivan last Thursday, so we're doomed. But it's cool. People are getting into a whole new industry. It's awesome.
Well, and I think you're right. A lot of it has to do with education, right? And so how do we, because I don't think that the majority of these people who are coming from the hotel world are necessarily intent on destroying your cabins. I don't think they mean to leave a mess behind them if they didn't know that was an acceptable practice. So how do we educate those people? We just lost Ryan, so now I'm going to ask you, Tess. How does Northgate, for example, tackle that from an education standpoint?
I think they're not trying to be a difficult guest. They probably just don't know. Like walking through someone's campsite, that's a no-no. But they might not even realize how rude that is. So we've done some kind of blogs on our site and tried to softly incorporate that messaging into our camp rules to encourage the hotel guests or the RV renters to be mindful of the camping culture and keep it a nice space for everyone, the RVers included.
So one last question on glamping here, and then I want to shift a little bit to amenities because I feel like if we're talking about innovative experiences, right? But with what kind of role with glamping do you see? Like obviously there's the Suns and the Northgates and the KOAs and the LSIs that we referenced that are going to keep kind of a consistent experience across whatever their brand is. Camp Fimfo is going to have the same experience at just different locations, those kinds of things. And so for people who follow those brands, who follow Camp Collective, who follow those kinds of things, they're going to have the same experience or relatively the same property to property. For the people who aren't so brand loyal though, is there a role that is Airbnb continue to be the driving force with some of these unique accommodations, even at campgrounds, that it is now for people to find exactly what they're looking for from a choice of 40 different yurts and teepees and colors and cabins and all those kinds of things? Or how do you see that working? Everybody jump in all at once, please.
You're the marketing guru here, huh?
I think Airbnb has made a sharp pivot, in the past year. You can see that they've changed their website and, they're going to try to stay. People are in the outdoor space to stay. But I don't think you can easily rent an RV site on Airbnb right now. And, there was a huge boom in people buying RVs. So for those RV owners, they're going to be more likely to turn to like a camp spot or something like that to find their next trip. And if they want to go out in a cabin the next time, they can go to camp spot and get that as well. So I don't know that Airbnb is going to catch up that quickly with the RV component.
Well, I don't think they are either. I'm just talking specifically about glamping and the unique accommodations, right? Because there are advantages for people who go to the Expedias who are price searching. And so I think that there's an advantage to Airbnb or whatever the website is, HipCamp, Camp Spot, whatever, to aggregate those in a way where they can see like 10 different cabins and, oh, that one's red and red's my favorite color and I want to stay there, right? Something like that.
Yeah, if you book I guess some people do list their inventory on Airbnb at these private campgrounds, but I think that campground culture isn't something glampers necessarily know they want, but like it when they see it. There's an experience when you're at a campground of, the neighbors, you drive around on your golf cart. I just think it's really nice. Like when I go to our campgrounds, I like to sit on the porch, wave to people, say hi, talk to people, and you just don't get that at a hotel or at an Airbnb.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And so I'm on the fence, really. Because obviously there's the argument that CampSpot makes, for example, right? About OTAs and the high fees, and I agree with all of that. And then the flip side is the marketing and more reach and how. And so I don't think I'm on one side or the other yet. Where do you fall, Ryan?
So we're going to be in this realm next year we're adding 20 new VRs. And so it's like, okay, yeah, our market up here has been so solid that we've never needed help with selling our VRs or unique accommodations. And this will be the first time we're like, okay, we're adding 20 at one time. It's like, I'm used to, smaller companies where you add one and okay, yep, that one's sold. Okay, add another one, that one. And so this is kind of a new territory for me. The nice thing that we have is we have both KOA's marketing and Sun's marketing going after, with a lot of photos and Facebook is mind-boggling how much positive or negative attention you can get off of a Facebook post. And I can watch our phone calls go crazy. And there's not a good way right now for Airbnb to communicate with K2. There's some workarounds where you can okay, this kind of links together and they can make a reservation, but it's still up to the staff member to put it in. It's a hard pivot to okay, the IT guys, now you got to figure out how to make all these websites talk to our software and figure that out. And you miss one and that's going to be a bad weekend for you. I don't know. I do think that the positive, if people aren't Googling beautiful campgrounds to go stay in a cabin, they're looking for a house and the first thing that pops up is Airbnb most of the time, unless they know that they want a campground. And you kind of almost have to, I think the marketing, the digital marketing is everything. If you don't have a good marketing firm and that's why I'm stoked to meet you, Tess, because there's so many cool ideas out there that, from, putting the manager out and okay, this is let me talk campfire talks. And this is what, so that people know, this is what camping is. This is where I want to take my family or, maybe you don't want families. Maybe you want you need to show that your park is quiet and your Wi-Fi is good. And because otherwise, you're doomed. And Airbnb is so convenient. You can get a house on a Lake Michigan right now for, $1,900 a month and no one even blinks. So I don't feel like that answered any of the questions, but that's all my thoughts all blurted out into whatever. So sorry, Brian.
No, I think it's valuable insight and information. And I think that's kind of what we're driving after, right? What does this dynamic look like in the future? Because innovative experiences require innovative solutions and innovative marketing, and it all ties together, right? So I think we got about 15 minutes left. Let's switch to amenities real quick. So I know we touched on it briefly with Camp Fimfo, but let's start there. What are some of the ways that Camp Fimfo is changing that amenity experience, or what people can see and do when they're there?
Yeah, so we're really not going to do a copy and paste of the Jellystones, although some of the amenities still might overlap. Water amenities are king. Everyone wants a pool. So we'll continue to add things like that. But with these locations, we're really going to focus more on the natural or adventure amenities. So, I mentioned tubing down the river. We are adding a huge zip line, for example. So really doing some of those more adventure attractions. And also even our activity lineup is going to be different. like I mentioned, Jellystone really stops at 12. So doing some more planned activities and workshops that can appeal to a broader age range and even adults. I think we have seen that on our surveys about our Jellystones is, this is great for my kids, but there's nothing for me to do. So finding things that they can do together or do without their kids.
One of the coolest parks I think I was ever at when we started Insider Perks a long time ago, before I was doing marketing for whatever how many campgrounds I'm doing it now. We were doing videos we started doing videos of hotels and stuff like that, but we pivoted kind of to KOAs, and we went to this Lake Placid KOA before it was I think it's a corporate park now, in upstate New York, and they had all kinds of like really cool rope courses and like tire, like you'd see the Army people doing and in camp and all that kind of stuff. And it's just some of those things that really stood out that kind of made you remember that place at the time, that was different and it was innovative and it was not your typical playground or your swing set or your whatever. So, ziplining, were you going across the river, Tessa, or where are you going? Somewhere exciting?
We're not going to be able to go across the river, but you're going to have river views. So it'll be really cool.
The most interesting zip line I ever saw was at a place called Gatorland in Florida. You could zip line across the alligator pits with alligators underneath you. So I never did it because it was after my time that I was down there, but we did a video of Gatorland, and so it was interesting stuff. But yeah, zip lining, like rock climbing walls, things like that, rope courses, any of that planned? Or
those things, not specifically at this location. I think that those are on the table for future destinations.
Does it, when you're looking at amenities park by park, or obviously, I don't know, is Camp Fimfo going to be a destination, or are you going to have, because obviously you're in New Braunfels, right, with Schlitterbahn there and stuff like that. There's going to be a huge interest in people who are coming to New Braunfels who will experience everything that Camp Fimfo has, but also will go to Schlitterbahn for a bulk of their day. And so, not speaking specifically from this location standpoint, but in general, how does that information, how does location drive what amenities you put in a park?
Oh, it's huge. And we really want the campground to be the destination, but we acknowledge that you're traveling to see the country. You are going to a new place to see things outside of that campground as well. So we want you to be able to spend your whole time at the campground if you want, but acknowledge that things in the local area are probably why you're coming there as well. And we really want to infuse that local aspect into our campgrounds, especially with Camp Fimfo. It's going to be hugely locally inspired, much more than we've ever done with Jellystone, from the food to the attractions to our store. We're doing something entirely different with our stores, and it's just going to be really cool.
Are you being intentionally vague, so it's all secret? You're not letting know it yet?
Oh, I don't need to be. I think just, with our Jellystones, they give you the merchandise that you put in there for the most part. This is our first time having to design a merchandise line, or, we just were less intentional about going out and finding local vendors. And New Braunfels has a huge arts community, for example. So what local products can we bring into our store? And, really everything reflecting the local area.
What do you feel, Ryan? I mean, obviously you talked about pickleball courts, right? Shuffleboard, stuff like that you're doing up at your property. So how does that shape what you guys are deciding to add?
So I actually want to talk more about our store. I'm really interested in, local.
Go ahead.
So you guys do you know what the square footage is of that store? Is it a big store? You guys putting a lot of focus on getting people inside the store?
Ooh, I don't know the square footage, but we're doing a lot more planning with it. And we have a really cool mural that's kind of mimics the campground that we did inside of it. We've never done something like that. So it's going to be, cool. Yeah, it's really cool. I got pictures of it the other day. I don't have them that I can share with you, but it's just going to look a lot different than our Jellystone stores.
Because I would say Jellystone and KOAs seem very similar, where everybody wants the yellow KOA stuff, and kind of where I've taken our store this year is I everyone can get KOA stuff, it's what it is. But if you can get local vendor, we have a local winery, and we have a local syrup company, and which is cool, and it's super fun. And it's very time consuming because once you get it, and it's oh man, this is so cool. And it kind of pushes people. I want to build it more like a community where it's people are coming here and we're showcasing all these other properties, so that when we need help, they're yeah, oh yeah, you should stay at the KOA. That place is awesome, and they sell our product.
Are you selling Petoskey stones? I have to ask.
Of course we are. Of course. And you know what? They have gone, and people can literally charge whatever they want now because they're so like the guy who did the kits was like 106 and he died out. And so we're building our own kits now. But like that's the most popular. We actually added a Petoskey stone polishing class. So like when the real activities director runs it, you know, she really tells the facts about, yeah, this is how the stones get here. And when Ryan Kratz runs it, it is just it's like there's an Indian, oh man, he drops out of the sky and we catch it. And then here we are polishing it. But it is the most, I bet you we have 40 people in the class every Saturday. And you're like, I mean, that's what people want. They love those activities and whatever we can put into the store to like kind of push to the local. Like, I think that's huge. Like I'm excited to see what your guys' store looks like. That'll be cool. Yeah,
that sounds so much cooler than just your standard gem mining, which standard gem mining is fun, but you know what you're describing is something.
But 906 parks do gem mining. Yep. And, you know, what are we gonna do that stands out? You know, like pickleball courts and basketball courts. Like everybody's got them. I mean, that's cool. It's fun for the guests. Like, oh yeah, if we want to do that, you know, we really wanted to focus. You know, staffing in Northern Michigan is really hard, and a lot of parts across the country, it's hard. And so, like, how do we put in amenities that don't require a staff member, just in case, like, yeah, we can't get the staff for this. So, like, we have a cafe that I still don't have staff for because no one, you know, it's hard to get workers right now. But, you know, this Petoskey class, like, yeah, we'll just try it and see what happens. And man, it's turned into something really, really cool. So.
Yeah,
Brian, I don't know if I answered your question at all either.
No, but. I mean, I think it definitely did. I think that's something we've been trying to push with our clients for a while. I mean, you look at in the industry, there's other people in the industry who've been doing it too, right? So, I mean, you look at started at the basic level with site maps with Southeast and AGS, who were going around selling advertising to different people in the area and still do. That's one way to build a relationship with local businesses in your area. But I think that there's been from a marketing standpoint, maybe Tessa would agree with me or not, I think there's obviously a huge advantage to meeting and greeting and to talking and to forming partnerships and to putting things in your store if that's the way it is, and putting local artists who have paintings in your cabins and all those kinds of things, because it's free marketing, but it's also building relationships, and more people are talking about you and more word of mouth and all those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. And so whether it's selling tickets to the local concerts or whatever it may be, packaging bundles or you know, we have a client who sells Noah's Ark water park passes in Wisconsin Dells, whatever it is, right? I think that only benefits you. Would you agree, Tessa? Or?
Yeah, for sure. So one of our Jellystones is in Luray, Virginia. So, you know, what do you know about Luray? Luray Caverns. So of course we want to partner with them and try to sell that whole experience to them.
I'm trying to remember, like, I know I've been to Luray. There's a super cool, like, I remember going to a super cool, like, parade shop down there. Like they designed the presidential floats or something, American floats on parade or something. It was really cool. It was right near Luray or somewhere like in that area of Virginia. But anyway, that's what I remember when you talk about that area of Virginia. They designed like the inauguration floats for the presidential inaugurations for like the last 40 or 50 years, and you can go see them all in one place, and it's super cool. But anyway.
I love that you think of that and not Shenandoah or the Caverns.
I know. I mean, I traveled for like 3 or 4 years. Right? So I went, like, we were all up on the Blue Ridge Parkway and what is the Dragon's Tail? Have you ever been on that?
Yes, that road's awful.
It's amazing. I took a Jeep there too, and we tried to go fast. It was not. Apparently, the Jeep doesn't hug corners like it should.
Yeah, you'd think a single on a Jeep would do it, but no. You know, we used to have this guy that worked on a marketing firm before it got huge, and he would come out here and do like drone videos and really cool like video shots, which I thought was super awesome. But then he got big, and now he runs a Facebook video thing every Monday. So
yeah,
you should really get back into that. That stuff that's great marketing. Love to get the old Brian special back up here.
I mean,
take some drone shots of the new place.
I feel like drones are a commodity now. They've gotten smart enough. Like I flew mine into a tree in Arizona, so a couple years ago. But yeah, I mean, anything you can do to showcase your property. You guys know this, and whether that's building relationships or taking photos or drone videos or showing people the experience, it's all about connecting that. I'm used to camping being one way. It's evolving. It's changing. There's people who are pushing and innovating experiences. How do I share that with my guests? Because they don't know that it's there, and to do it on all your touch points too. right? To do it on YouTube, to do it on Instagram, to do it on Facebook, to do it on your Google listings, to do it everywhere, because you never know where they're going to look.
Yeah.
One of the things I always tell people who are trying to drive a certain subset of guests to their park, right, is the guest who decides not to stay with you, you don't know you're missing. They're not driving by you on the highway saying, hey, I'm going to the park down the street, see you later. You don't know. And so it's very important to manage all of those touch points, I feel like, and show your best side of yourself.
Tessa, do you have influencers that you guys send to all your parks that are doing like shots and live photos and stuff?
So we don't have one influencer that we have going to all of them. We tend to work with more individual influencers for each property, more regionally.
Okay.
So how do you, let's just talk about that for 2 seconds, right? How do you find influencers if you're a campground? I mean, I know from a marketing standpoint, Tessa, but how do I find those people? How do I vet them? How do I make sure that if I'm wanted to talk about my glamping and my innovative experiences, and obviously the more people that are talking about it, the better, right? There are reviews of your park that are arguably micro influencers. But how do I attract these people who are going to spread the word about the innovative experiences I'm offering?
Yeah, my philosophy is really that bigger is not always better with the influencer, and you need to find those influencers that have the good engagement and the right kind of followers that match who you're trying to go after, and working more on a regional scale, checking to make sure that their followers are in the area that you're looking to target or within driving distance. We know most people come from 2 to 3 hours to go camping, so you don't want someone that has all their followers in London, even if they have a ton of them. It doesn't really help.
So what are you expecting from an influencer when they come to your park? Like, what are some of the things that you would say are, I need you to do this if you want this?
Yeah, so we really obviously we do the whole, you need to post about us. And, sometimes we'll get a blog post out. We really have an emphasis photos, and we give most of our influencers a shot list that they provide to us, because it is hard to get those lifestyle photos. And, sometimes they'll give us video more and more now too, with Reels and TikTok. So we're kind of moving more that direction.
Well, that's some of the, and I'm sure, Ryan, you've had influencers at your park too, but that's part of the reason too that we pivoted away from doing the drones and photography, because it came more not a commodity, but there are so many people now. You can pick up a smartphone, take a good picture. There are influencers who have been doing YouTube now for 10, 15 years who can pick up a camera and do a really nice video for you. And yes, you have to vet them, and yes, they're rare. But I think it's a whole lot easier to do that than it was when I was, 2013, 14, when I was at Petoskey.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you done with influencers at your park, Ryan? We got about 2 minutes here to wrap up.
We did a lot at Cava. So we actually, it's so easy. It feels like to go out and take a photo of a cabin with nobody in it. And like, okay, this is what it is. And, but it makes a huge difference when when they come with their own team of people set up and do the wine, they're drinking wine around the table. Like, that feels so much more inviting to the guest who's looking online. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to sit there and drink the same bottle like that. Look at that. They're having a ball, versus the empty scenes everywhere. And it's so hard to get the right people there, because, you especially nowadays, you have to make sure you have the right people in the shot. And, do you have them wearing masks? Do you not have them wearing masks? It's as a campground manager, that was never my expertise. So I always want to get people who are involved, and I always, we'll comp them if they have enough friends, or, it makes it worth it for us. But it was always hard to, get marketing involved. Okay, what do you guys want? What do you want to see here? And, I want to push more towards activity. So I want a team that's coming in that's going to be more activity based and has kids, instead of, the older couple who, they don't like kids and they just want to show you how the wine place is. But yeah, that's hard. I'm actually trying to, I think Sun should really start getting more. They have a few now, but man, those people it makes a huge difference when you get a reel of really good photos and you're like, I can use these for the next 3 years. This will be awesome. So.
Yeah, because some of them don't age. I mean, I think you're 100% right. And to your point about structuring what the content of the photos is, well, one thing that stuck with me, we still do manage reviews for this tiny little hotel in Daytona Beach. Very small, it's actually probably a motel. But one of the things he said to me, it was one of our first clients ever way back in 2009, 2010, was that when you were going around, we were taking photos for him at the time. I like, me personally, this is what he was saying. I don't like to see people in photos because I want to imagine myself in those photos. And so I think it's very different depending on each guest, right? And so I think where I sit, and maybe Tessa disagrees, and I mean, maybe I'm not saying this right or wrong, but where I sit is I want the people photos all over my website, and I want the empty photos where people are looking at what are the amenities of the cabin and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, well, we are out of time. So do you guys want to wrap it up? Any final sayings about Camp Fimfo or anything like that we should know or look forward to?
No, Camp Fimfo going to be opening July 1st, and we'll have a lot more photos coming out here over the next month or so as we finalize things. So stay tuned. I think it's going to be really cool. I'd love to come back and talk about it once I can say more.
Once it opens to the public and nothing's a secret anymore. Okay, gotcha. All right, well, we'll have you back on.
Photos and everything.
What's the website for Camp Fimfo? Is it just campfimfo.com?
Yep, campfimfo.com.
Is that why you chose the name? Because nobody else had the domain, or?
It was a very cheap domain, not gonna lie.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tessa. I really appreciate your time for coming on, spending some time with us today. Ryan, as always, appreciate you coming back on and sharing some stuff about the KOA. And we'll see you guys. I think we're going to take next week off, but we'll see you guys soon. So take care. Have a good day.